Welcome to Glowing Success. My name is Heidi and I am your host. This podcast is for beauty entrepreneurs. Join me weekly as we dive into the beauty industry's ins and outs, from business strategies, top-selling services, and taboo topics. I will be interviewing industry leaders with empowering stories and game-changing insights. Let's illuminate your path to success together. Let's jump into this next episode. I am so excited for my interview today. You guys, Samantha, she is amazing. Samantha used to work with me for a while, and we are going to be talking about everything about starting over in a new city or state. And we're going to be sharing a lot of details about how to make that easier for you. So if you are listening and you are thinking about moving to either a new city that's far away from where you've been working or a totally new state, you are going to want to tune in. Welcome back to Glowing Success. I'm so excited for our interview today. I am interviewing Samantha Sherlock. This is a very special episode, you guys. Not only are we going to be talking about starting over in a new city and state, but Samantha used to work with me for a while. So we just have such a cool bond, and I'm so excited to have her on. So welcome, Samantha.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yes. I'm so excited for this too. All my interviews I'm excited for, but there's some special ones where you're just oh my God.
I know. No, it's all the feels.
All the feels. I know, right?
All
yeah.
the feels.
Which is so happy. So
Yeah.
For anybody that doesn't know you that's listening, Samantha, kind of maybe go into your background or go into what you're doing currently, or just go into a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I have lived in Minnesota my whole life, and I got my aesthetics license at the Aveda Institute in Minneapolis in 2018. So that's when I started my skincare journey in my career, and I ended up getting my advanced practice license as well. Started working for you at Sapphire, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going to school for permanent makeup and started doing those services. And then I ended up moving to Boston and starting over a little bit there just to do something new in my life.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a learning curve, but it's good.
It's probably I feel like it's something that, so I have lived out of state, so I'm also from Minnesota and lived here most of my life.
Yep.
And I used to live in California for a while, and kind of the same vibe. Eventually you kind of get over winter. You want to just explore other states. You want to, I'm sure this is true for every listener. You just kind of sometimes get bored of your home state, right? And you just want some new experiences. Obviously you probably had visited there for a while and
Yes.
liked it. And that was similar for me. I visited California for a while and I really liked it. So I think that's I don't know, I think it's normal progression.
Absolutely.
It's kind of fun to explore and live somewhere else, and you can always call this home, right?
Yep,
so it's
I can always come back.
Yeah.
And I love it still. I always love Minnesota.
Right.
But I think, when you're at any age, I think it's okay to, try something new and be in a new environment. But I think, I was at a point where I'm all right, I'm in my 20s.
Yep.
Let's try something new just because, just because I can. I have the opportunity. So.
And you're not locked down, and you don't, and I think you have to take advantage of those times when they happen, because you will have times in your life where maybe you have things that are going to keep you places. And
100%, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, so if the listeners are thinking about either moving to a different state or even a different city, because this could apply to just moving to a little bit farther away than you are right now. Yeah. Essentially, when you move out of state or moving your business or your client base to another city, essentially you're starting over. Because, you're lucky enough if you move close enough to where you were working and people follow you. And that's really actually, I want to talk a little bit about that too, because for me, for instance, I've been in my space now for 6 years, and I'm probably going to end my lease in June. I know, so I'm a little sad about it because I've been here for so long that this is home to me, and
oh my God.
I love it here. And where I'm located is really good because it's right down the street from Target. It's really close to the freeway. It's next to a lot of stores. It's very easy for my clients to park. There's so many things I love about it. It's also close to where a lot of my clients do things, so it's easy for them to do it. So even thinking about moving, so let's say I move even within my city, it's hard because you're like, wow, this is a change for your clients. This is like a change for yourself. Like there's so many emotions that go into it. So I can only imagine like, what is it like moving to a different state and moving and possibly either offering the same services or different? What has it been like for you?
Yeah, it's a huge adjustment. I mean, luckily, I think I tried to prepare myself as best as I could, but you can only do so much. And I was lucky enough too to be able to go out to where I was planning to move a few times and kind of like scope out the area, and trying to have a plan, I think, is like the biggest part. So making sure that I was really researching every place that I wanted or was interested in working in.
Yeah.
That looked established, that had good reviews,
Yes.
that looked professional. I think a social media presence too is also pretty important to look for.
Yes.
So it's like a long list of things that to consider, and I think it's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then once you're physically there too, just kind of checking out the areas that you're going to be possibly working in, and
Yeah.
I think I'm so used to living in a state where we do have ample parking. It's a newer state,
Yes.
so roads
Yes.
are they're bigger. More updated, so it's easier to get around.
Yeah.
And so moving to such an old and charming place was hard to get used to. They don't have as much parking as we do, so I think clients are, it's harder for them to get there sometimes.
Yes.
It's harder for me to know where to park sometimes.
I'm sure.
Especially, I mean, we haven't had a winter really either, here, so I'm sure it's been easier than other years for other people. But yeah, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about obviously I love marketing. And so in my coaching business, that's definitely one of the things that I love teaching people about. I love helping people, kind of find new ways to market and really grab attention of the people from the outside in. So what are some ways that you obviously have tried marketing now? Because obviously you're starting over, you're having to start your books over, kind of talk a little bit about that. Like maybe the current spa you're part of, are they helping you? Are you more independent? Maybe go into detail about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of doing a little bit of both. I'm trying to market myself just independently, but I'm lucky enough too where I have a really supportive employer and a supportive team around me with coworkers.
Nice.
So yeah, just kind of going in, my employer was very just interested in me putting myself out there and introducing myself, and I think at first just my thing was just running a deal, just, hey, I'm new to the area, I'm new to the spa, just introducing myself. This is a classic lash set for 50% off, or for your first one with me. So that was good. And then I really try to get my social media as best as I can. I know it's really hard.
Yes.
But I joined a lot of girl groups in the area too, and a lot of esthetician support groups in the area. So that, on Facebook and Instagram has stuff like that too. Where you can just message each other, ask for help, tips, whatever. Because that's different from state to state too.
Totally.
Yeah, I think the whole, just girls supporting girls, people supporting people, was a big help to me. So
okay, good. That's amazing. And, like you said, that's different for every state. It's different for every area. I do feel like people helping each other has really grown in our industry. People are more, committed to helping each other, whereas back in the day it was very passive or it was non-existent. And so, I do feel like that vibe has changed of, oh, yeah, you're new to the area. I actually know some people that want to get their services done in that area, or I have a client that moved there, or so forth. And so, hey, let me recommend you, or hey, can I try your services just to see how you are? There's so many different ways you can market yourself, and so it can be a little overwhelming because, like you said earlier, you kind of also have to get to know the area, so how people receive information. So for me specifically, I can give a general blanket of marketing tips, but you always have to customize it to what those people do in your area.
Absolutely.
So for instance, maybe in our area in the western suburbs here in Minneapolis or the Twin Cities, Like a lot of people on the West Side, they hear about things from other people. So it's really important to like join those Facebook groups or join mommy groups or, you know, kind of get out there and network physically in person, because those touch points are going to actually extend longer than if you just post it on social media. But then in some areas, social media works way more and more efficient. So it's like when you're moving to a different city or state, you guys, you also have to think about like and get to know the people around you and get to know how they hear about services, how they hear about new information, how they receive it. You know, like there's so many things, but I like that you touched on that you also relied on the people that you work with. That's another thing that I really suggest is like not only working with the other service providers that are around your area, but if you are lucky enough to work in a location where you have other people working alongside you, especially if they're doing other services. So like if you have hairstylists you're working alongside, of course, like maybe do a brow wax on them or brow tint, maybe do some services on them, trade a little bit if you can. And obviously that's, you know, sometimes dependent on the salon or spa that you work for too. But I would definitely encourage it. If you're listening and you're an employer, I definitely encourage like people getting services done inside your salon or spa a very easy way. So like make it very affordable, make it free, however you can do that, because the more that your clients, you know, can see you doing the services and getting the things done, the more they're probably going to book something new to them or add something on that they've never tried.
Absolutely.
So I think that's kind of interesting. I do think it's very unique. Now, expectation wise of like building your books, like in our industry, let's say like you're just getting out of school, it can take like 2 to 3 years to build your books to a full-time schedule. Now, do you feel like you're kind of like going a little faster? Do you feel like you're kind of on that pace? Do you feel like because you've been in the industry, do you have a little bit more experience with this? Obviously, it might build faster, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it is a little faster.
Okay.
I was, you know, that was definitely something I was worried about naturally.
Right,
You're
totally.
like, all right, I'm going in kind of blind here.
Yep.
But that's I think why just researching before you're applying anywhere is so important too. Just looking at reviews and how people, the first impression people have of people working there, if they're kind, if like that kind of the impression that they give.
The vibe. You gotta check. And that's actually like smart of you. While you went out a couple times, I know you were like, I gotta scope out, not only were you guys scoping out places to live, but like you're scoping out like employers. And like sometimes if you can go into these establishments and find the vibe, like that's really important, because listen, they could have all the good things on paper, like good reviews and all the things, but if like it's not your vibe, it's not ever gonna work, right?
Exactly.
Because like I know from an employer's perspective, like somebody could come in and have the greatest resume. Like I am, you know, I've trained in this, I've done this, I've had years of experience, I've done all the things. But then if you don't like get along with that person, I'm not going to hire them. I don't care how qualified they are, because that vibe and those personalities and like just that, there's so much to that.
Absolutely. I mean,
so much.
It's such an industry where, I mean, I just feel like we're so close in this industry because what we do is we take care of other people, you know? So finding someone that is also so passionate about that is huge. And that translates to just kind of helping each other build your books, you know? One of my coworkers I work with now, you know, she's not someone that loves to do facials, that kind of stuff, and she's been there her whole life in Massachusetts, and so she's built up her clientele. You know, she's a successful girl, and she helps me out by recommending her lash clients to me, because she doesn't want to do want to do the facials, which we all have things, you know, that we just don't feel comfortable doing, or it's just not our vibe, right?
And that's perfect, actually. I mean, somebody that already has that built up, I mean, that's an amazing networking that you just did, because those kind of relationships, and you can curate them naturally, and they happened naturally, they're so priceless. It's like so
nice.
Gold. Yeah.
It's so nice to have.
You can rely on that person being original. You can rely on that person giving a review on you. You can rely on that person sending their clients that they know that you'll like. Like there's so many building topics on that, you guys. Like, so if you're listening and you're like, I have not networked with other service providers, or I haven't networked with other people in my area at all, I highly suggest trying, like, and really go natural with it. Like, I don't want you to push it too much. And yes, be intentional about the relationships you're building in this industry, but I don't want you going out and seeking somebody just because they're popular and so forth. Like, seek them out because you actually either got a service from them and you liked them, or you work alongside them and you guys get along, or you think that their client base is very similar to your client base and what you're looking for. You know, like, there's a lot of other factors that go into building relationships, but obviously once you have those factors, yes, be intentional about what you're doing with them. Like,
Absolutely.
hey, let's trade services, or hey, do you want to do a social media post about each other, or hey, do you want to, do a video, or a testimonial video. Like, there's so many different ways you can touch on that. So this is really exciting. It sounds like you're doing really good. I'm so excited because, like, you've been there for 6 months now,
6
right?
months, yeah.
So, I mean, that's not a terribly long time, right? I mean, it's long enough to get to know the area. It's long enough to, like, build yourself up a little bit. It's long enough to kind of build a normal schedule, but that's still pretty early, right?
Still
like,
early. Yep.
yeah. So I'm like, that's awesome. But so maybe let's touch on somebody that maybe they're very new out of school. So within the first year of graduating, and they're in a situation where they have to move away from where they are living. So obviously that's a really interesting, situation, whereas yours, you've been in the industry long enough, you've had regular client base, what that looks like, you've marketed a little bit, you've done all these different things, so you have some of those skill sets built up. But maybe what would be, now that you've kind of moved states and like done that, I mean, that's definitely something relatable, but maybe what advice would you give somebody that's maybe fresh in the industry and they're also moving?
I think that the biggest thing in our industry, and in most industries, I think, is kind of what I touched on before, and that is networking.
Yeah.
And it's sticking with maybe the people that you went to school with, too, and supporting each other, and honestly, going and getting those services done, and meeting as many people as you can is huge. And I felt like I was someone new out of school too, because I had no experience with anyone in the area.
Yep.
And licensing is different out there.
Okay.
The requirements to get licensing is different.
Yep.
So I was nervous about that. But I think just kind of faking it until you make it too, and being confident.
For sure.
Confidence is huge.
For sure.
And those employers, or possible employers too, will look at what you've done to grow, and having that social media presence, I think, is huge, because that means that you're trying.
Yep.
And that you're going to continue to try in the future and help them with their business as well.
Yes.
You are dedicated to your craft.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
Yep.
But I made a conscious effort too, just because I wanted to meet friends too.
Yeah, of course.
It wasn't just about the business.
Yeah.
But if I met someone that was also in the business, that was a good perk.
Yes.
So like I would go and get my nails done as a new person in the area, and the girl I went to was awesome, and we just chatted a lot about similarities in our careers and that kind of stuff, and kind of what you said before.
Yep.
We followed each other and are supporting each other. We're liking all of our things, and then if I have plenty of clients, I feel like every day ask me like, oh, where do you get your lashes done? Where do you get your hair done or your nails done? And then you plug your person, and I know she does the same for me.
Yes.
Which is really cool.
I love that you're a client, because so this is definitely something I talk about too in my coaching, is like, be a client, you guys.
Yes.
And there's so many reasons I really suggest people being a client. So number one reason is, I think actually it shows us the things that maybe we're doing in our rooms and not our rooms, right? So like, or the things that we want to prove on. Because when you're a client and you don't know the service provider, like, you are a true client, right? And so when we're behind the scenes so much and we are the service provider so much, we forget what that experience looks like, and we forget what like that just whole experience is about. Mm-hmm. And so when you are a client somewhere, it'll teach you a lot of things. Like, it'll teach you a lot about like, oh wow, I like that she did this, or they did this, and Absolutely. I like that person did this, or I don't like that they did that, or but also like, for your instance, you were like, I need to know people in the area, I need to meet people, like I also kind of want to meet friends, mm-hmm. like I also want to, and so there's so many reasons to get something done. And so if you guys can save up and like build that, part of your, I don't know, savings,
yes, yeah.
then do it, because it's going to help you in so many ways. I mean, definitely helps you career-wise, definitely will help you personal-wise, like, and also can help them. Like, for instance, like you were saying, like, I'm obviously introducing my clients to that person as well. Yep. So it really goes both ways, and you did it really organically, right? So like, if you would have had not a good vibe with that person, or, whatever, like, of course you wouldn't have continued that relationship, and you would have found somebody else. So it's not that you have to like just stick with the one person that you've tried. Like really, try them out and
because
see
that
how you
reflects
vibe.
you too.
Yeah,
If
definitely.
you're recommending someone to your clients that, maybe isn't following certain like sanitizing guidelines,
Yes.
or they're not clean, or
or they just don't communicate the way you want.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a huge
then
one.
that reflects you.
Yes.
So that could end up just kind of ruining both of you.
I know, right? You'll just attract the wrong vibe.
Yeah,
so
be picky.
Yes.
Be picky and make sure that you're vibing with that person and you are there for organic and good reasons. And forming connections is good.
Yeah. Now, how has the transferring of your licenses been? So obviously, many states are different. Like for even Minnesota, for instance, Wisconsin is a lot more lenient than Minnesota when it comes to their guidelines and their state laws and rules and how you're licensed and what's regulated and so forth. But then Michigan is starting to tighten up on theirs, just like we are. So like it's very similar, I'm noticing. I don't know about the Dakotas. I haven't really heard much about people switching their license to the Dakotas, but I'm guessing the Dakotas are really similar to Wisconsin, and same thing with Iowa. I don't really know much about Iowa and their licensing regulations. So obviously, like when you switch to a different state, you have to switch your license to that different state. Some of them are going to be easy and some of them are going to be hard. How was the experience for you?
So as far as just the process in general, it is paperwork.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing. And that part of it is super easy. Just kind of filling out all of your information. They ask for the hours that, you went to school, kind of all of that, because, every school that you're going to in different states, they have different requirements too.
Yep. So you probably had to have a transcript or you're just your diploma or something. Okay.
So I had to, contact where I went to school and have them send over a transcript.
Yep.
They had to make sure too that I didn't have any problems with my, I didn't have anyone reporting me. I didn't have any issues. I've never lost my license.
Yep.
So that part of it is pretty easy. It's the waiting. That is what's tough.
So you didn't have to do any extracurriculars. You didn't have to do,
So in my specific situation, it was actually.
So we're heavily regulated, and I'm guessing that's why here in Minnesota. So I'm guessing like Boston is just a little bit different regulated, or they just thought, hey, you have all the requirements we're looking for.
Yeah.
Now I'm guessing you guys, if you're listening, you're moving to a state that's more regulated than the state that you originally got licensed in. It could be tricky. Like there could be times where you are going to go back to school for certain hours. There could be, maybe they just have to have you take an extra sanitation class. So be prepared for that when you are going on this journey, if this is a journey you guys are listening and going in on. But also just be prepared that, like she said, there could be a time lapse in there. So like if you're thinking about, hey, I want to go and get this job immediately and I want to start working because obviously I need to pay my bills and do all the things, just be mindful of that.
Absolutely.
And so how long did that take when you actually received your license?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that you have to do is just give yourself enough time because you really don't know how long they're going to take.
Right.
I got an estimate.
Yeah, 6 weeks or...
And it was longer.
Oh, really?
It ended up taking longer, so I wanted to give myself 2 bookends of just time. It took a few months.
Okay.
So, and I expected it to just take a few weeks. So I had to be prepared for that. So as much time as you can give yourself before you move, the better, I think. Because then, you're not going to feel as rushed when you're moving because, you have to deal with all the other things that come with moving too. So just having that license ready to go is huge.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's hard because there's so many things that layer onto each other. So when you apply for your licensing in a different state, I'm guessing they wanted an address from you of either where you're going to be working or living. So, think about that too, you guys. She already scoped out places before she moved there. And I think you already had a place settled before you moved there. Yep. But I'm not sure, so obviously that has to come first, right? Your address or even where you're working has to come first because that's where at least on our licenses in Minnesota, you have to put your home address or home city. It doesn't say your full address on your license, but it says your city. So, you have to have that figured out. And then obviously she was saying the timeline. So I would just, I don't know, every state's obviously going to be different, but I would say 2 months is probably normal or even more than that.
Yep.
So, really plan out those different things because obviously we want to stay with within your regulation. You want to obviously be following things so you don't get shut down in another city and so forth.
Yeah.
And then also your employers. So like when you get hired on, they need to know, hey, you have that proper licensing to offer those services.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, most likely it is going to be a lot easier to find an employer that is willing to take you on if you are ready to go.
Yes.
Because I think that shows them too that you're ready to go.
I'm ready.
You want to start as soon as you can, and once you're out there, you're like, I'm ready to work.
Yes, tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, I need to start working.
Yes.
Getting in that routine again is huge for me.
Yes.
It makes you feel better. But yeah, that was scary for a little bit just because I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. It was new to me too. But
the waiting game.
The waiting game. Yeah, and I technically moved in June, like middle of June, I think June 15th exactly. And I started the process because I'm anxious, so I started in March.
Yes, totally.
Because I was like, all right, who knows?
I think you should have too, right?
Yeah.
Well, and you guys already had been set on moving. You guys have already, so like I do think as soon as you know you're moving and as soon as you maybe have a locked in location somewhere or even like close to a lease signing or close to a house buying, like you really need to start that ball.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
it's part of that is really, it's a lot of work, like I don't think people realize like how much work it is moving out of state, but until you do it, and then you're like, wow, there's so many little things you don't think about until you have to do them.
Yep.
And so it's not even just the physical move itself, which is taxing in itself, but like it's also just like everything,
Yep.
So you've been talking a little bit about lashes, and I'm sure you're offering some general aesthetics, so like facial, maybe facial waxing, tinting, maybe lash lift and tint. But are you offering your permanent makeup services over there?
At the moment, I'm not offering my permanent makeup services. I am planning to offer my permanent makeup services hopefully in the near future. That is
awesome.
Something I talked to my employer about.
Okay.
And she's very supportive, and that's
cool.
huge, right?
Yeah.
From working with you,
Yes.
having
Yes.
a supportive employer is amazing.
It's huge. Yes.
It makes such a big difference in your confidence and just how successful you are, But my biggest thing was just finding a healthy environment.
Yes.
And finding somewhere where I could keep learning and keep growing, and they would be supportive of that.
Perfect.
Somewhere where I could do, continue to do continuing education every year.
Yes.
I think it's huge. Just educating yourself.
And you've been doing aesthetics longer, so I think that makes sense that jumping into that would be much easier, faster, and then settling into that environment. Now, is their licensing similar to ours? So in the state of Minnesota, in order to offer permanent makeup, you have to become a tattoo artist.
Yes.
So it's probably similar in a lot of states. Okay.
Very similar.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas,
so that licensing is, once again, you're going to have to go through that licensing process. Okay.
Exactly. So I think, too, part of it was that I was so overwhelmed with just my aesthetics license.
Yes.
And making sure that was squared away. That was kind of like my top priority because I, like you said, I've been doing that for the longest.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love doing aesthetics and permanent makeup. So I was kind of like, hey, as long as I can do one just to start out, like I'm going to be good, and then I'll introduce the next one.
I think that's so smart. And like your client can, build your client slowly. So I even say this with people starting off in the industry, like, I feel like we have so many services and opportunities in this industry. It can be overwhelming because you feel like you have to offer everything, right? Like, but I will say, like, only focus on like 3 or 4 services, maybe 2 services at that, and then you can build from there. So not only can you build your client base from there, but that client trust will be there. So by the time you do start offering permanent makeup, I think that's really smart of you because you've already not only built a relationship with your employer in the spa you work in or the salon you work in, but then you also have built that relationship with like your clients and the trust and like all those things, which is going to segue much easier into the services you'll be offering in the future. And so I do think like that's a really good way to do it because if let's say you moved there and you start offering everything, that blanket effect isn't actually as effective as people think it is. Like you actually want to narrow down your niche a little bit. You actually want to just focus in on your skills a little bit. You want to focus in on marketing. There's so many things that have to layer as once again layering. And so I do think that's smart. I think that's interesting that the licensing was, a little bit similar, or like you have to just kind of do the paperwork again.
Yeah, it's just waiting.
Yeah, just I know, right? Once
big
again. But I think that's kind of cool. Obviously, permanent makeup is popular everywhere, so I do think like that service in general is, once you can get settled on that, you're like, okay, I'm getting back into it.
I'll be very excited to get back into it because I fell in love with it here. I just I love changing people's, people were so confident, and that was so fun, and I already got
Yes.
to see a little bit with that, with like lashes and skincare,
Yes.
and it's seeing people light up is the best thing ever.
Yes.
But yeah, I wanted to make sure that when I'm in a new place and I'm using a whole new product line that I've never used before.
That's another thing.
And they all have their different protocols
Yes.
too. So I wanted to make sure that, all right, like let me perfect these services, like you said first. Let me narrow in on these services first, make sure these are all good.
Yep.
So I'm not completely overwhelmed by just offering as much as I can to try and get, as many people in as I can.
Yes. Now, you would touch base on getting used to products. So not only are we having to get used to everything, but like that is a whole nother thing too. Like we don't think about is like, you might not be able to find a company to work for that works with the same products that you were used to before you moved.
Right.
And so having to get used to a new product line, having to get used to a new booking system, having to get used to, all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So, keep that in mind too if you're listening, and you're like, oh man, I got to write these things down. Definitely write down that, you are probably going to be on a strong learning curve for a while, and be gentle with yourself and be, patient with yourself. And like you said earlier, like it really helps that you have a supportive, team around you, because they're going to have to be patient with you while you get to know these new products, and while you get to know the new booking system, and while you get to know the new lingo that maybe they're using over there instead. And so really take that into account as well. Like these are all things that are going to be pushed at you. Now, if you've been in the industry a little bit of time, it's much easier to switch product lines because generally most product lines have a lot of similarities. They're all going to have a cleanser. They're all going to have a moisturizer. They're all going to have an SPF. They're all, and so it's not like you're having to get used to like how a product works. It's just like you have to get used to like the name of that product, or like what's the top selling ingredient in that product, or like maybe how this company likes you to sell it, or maybe they'll have even education come in and teach you about those products. So it's not necessarily going to be as overwhelming as maybe some of the other things, but it definitely is something to think about, and definitely something to take into account when you think about moving to a different place. Right. So the last thing I kind of want to touch on is, so when it comes to your licensing, so obviously you have new licensing in Massachusetts. Yep. So do you keep your active licensing in the state that you came from? So do you still have your licensing in Minnesota?
I don't.
Okay.
Actually, no.
So you have to give that up. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I don't know if that's an option, or if that's like something that people can do, because I know that I've met people that do keep licensing in different states, and they'll travel to different states, and they'll be like, hey, I'm going to be here at this time. So how did that work when you were doing that? Was that an option that you could have chosen, or
yes.
Okay.
Yep. So that was an option I could have chosen, but so technically I transferred my license, so just switching. But yeah, I do know of a lot of people too that do technically work in two states, and I think that that's pretty cool. But I just knew that I wasn't going to be coming back to Minnesota as often as I could to keep up with clients to do that. And then when I was here, I'd probably had shorter amounts of time. Where, you're not going to spend with my family.
Yeah, you're not going to try to make money while you're here. You're trying to just visit.
Exactly.
So what would that process have looked like if you would have done it that way? Like, would you have had to start over essentially in Massachusetts, or do they just have an option where you take a little bit of schooling? Like, how does that look?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that process was. I think too, I was like, oh, transferring's probably easier.
Yeah, for sure.
At the time when all the things are happening and there's so much to do, I was like, all right, let's just do the easier option.
Perfect.
But I would think that you would just be able to transfer it.
Yeah.
And continue to keep the one in Minnesota, since you're technically licensed there and you had all of the,
you had all the requirements.
Yeah, you would just be paying for two different licenses and two different probably continuing education classes.
Yes.
So it's more money, but if
which
that's
is challenging.
if it's worthwhile for you, then that's cool.
I think that's more common I've heard it more common for hairstylists. So obviously doing hair in different places is a little bit easier than doing aesthetics somewhere else. I have also heard that with tattooing, though. I've also seen tattoo artists move to different states too, and have her guest spot somewhere, or
conventions and all that kind of
or even permanent makeup. I've seen some permanent makeup people like come in spotlight and like, hey, we have this person in, or even nail techs. That's been really popular with nails in the Twin Cities here, where people are coming from different states, and like you'll have a week that you can book with this person. Right. So I do think it's an option, you guys. So if you're thinking about moving, look into all of those options. questions. Now, every state board of cosmetology is different, and a lot of times there is a lot of confusion. So I see on like a lot of the Facebook groups specifically about this of like, I reached out to the state board of Cosmo, I didn't hear back. So what I always suggest people to do is on your state board of Cosmo website, there's generally a place where you can look up your laws and rules. At least on our website it is. I'm hoping on others it is.
Yes, Mass too.
Yeah, so I have a feeling that's a good reference point to start with, and like look at their laws and rules. There's a lot of information in those laws and rules. It can be a little bit taxing to look at, but I promise you, like it'll give you a lot of information before you even reach out to them. Because a lot of times when you reach out to state, places, it can take a while for them to get back to you because they're doing a lot of other things and they have to make sure all of the licensing in that state is taken care of. So it's definitely not going to be a fast process. So if you can do a little bit of that research on your own, and that's probably the place that I would start with is just the laws and rules, because in our laws and rules, it'll state like what's an unregulated service. It'll state like what it looks like to have a salon or spa, because those are usually the ones, and then what is a requirement for your licensing.
Right.
So it'll give you all of that information. Like I said, it's very heavy information generally.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of information in there, a lot of lingo, but I promise you, if you can just download those, kind of go over them, even before you move, it'll help you a lot. So some of those questions might be answered, and then if it's not, then you'll at least have a little bit more procured question,
right.
So
absolutely,
because a lot of these things are going to be different in every state. Like you said, it's different with the regulation and education. I know some states it's more, some states it's less. Like it's so crazy.
It is, yeah. And just having just a little bit of information,
yes,
it's great. I feel like when I first knew and made the decision, like, okay, I'm gonna move. I like scoured their website and just kind of it's like, okay, what's going to be the requirements, to make sure my license stays active, everything, just the basics, and trying to. It's super overwhelming because there is a ton of information, a ton of words, like a lot to read.
Yes.
But that's a smart thing to do, and I think having those people too when you do find some place that you want to work at, which I tried to do, and had a place where I had people that I could reach out to and was like, okay, hey, like, what are the requirements here? Like, have you had anyone here before that's transferred from a different state? Like, what do you know?
That's a good question. Yes.
And then other estheticians too that I'm just friends with that I know not necessarily have moved to, the same area that I have, but
just a different state.
Yeah. I have a friend that moved from here to Texas, and just kind of what she went through to do that. And so getting advice from her was huge. So really use your resources and use people around you, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah. Those Facebook groups are great, right?
They're great because they're there to support you. And support each other, which is huge.
And that's the other thing too. Like, go on those Facebook groups, whether it be a group in the specific state or city you're going to be going to, or just a general group on Facebook, and look up and search, you guys, because I promise you, this has probably already been talked about, and so there's already probably a post and threads on it, so like, don't start a new post yet. Like, go and search in the search bar in that group, because there's definitely a lot of information out there. I do see a lot of questions being asked quite repetitively in those groups, and I feel like for me, I get kind of frustrated because I'm like, oh, this question's already been asked like a week ago, like especially if you're in those groups often like I am. I'm always wanting to know like what new estheticians or new beauty business owners are asking specifically for my coaching program. So I'm in those groups a lot. I also like to just offer advice when I can. But I do see a lot of repetitive kind of posts. And so it makes me laugh because I'm like, you guys need to search. Unless you feel like it's a unique question.
Right.
But that's a really good resource. I mean, like you said, people can give you what they went through and really offer you that comfort too. And I think that's the other thing. Like when you're going to be moving to a new area or a new state, there's so much that's overwhelming that it can be really off-putting. Like you can really get discouraged by it. But I promise you, stay focused on what you're going to do, right? Like you were like, we're so excited to move there. Samantha has a boyfriend, so obviously like your partner, your boyfriend, like you guys obviously made this decision together. And so that's another like, good factor to have of like, hey, I wasn't the only one just trying to move out there. Like, so I do think that's important to like keep an eye on the prize, kind of, so to speak. Like, I'm moving out there and this is what I'm doing. But it's all going to work out. I do think, like you said earlier, staying motivated, staying a little bit organized, like those things can really help you a lot. And just putting yourself out there. Those are the things that you kept on touching base on. It was like, I'm going to keep on too, is just reaching out to new people, trying new things, like networking. Like, I mean, those are things you're going to have to continuously do for a while. And honestly, let's be honest, like you're going to have to do throughout your career. But, the easier you can, make those things in your life and part of your life, and the more comfortable you can become with them, the better off you're going to be in all of those efforts, and those efforts will come back to you tenfold. So I think that's important to think about, you guys. Okay, Samantha, you have given so much information. So if anybody's listening and they're thinking about moving out of city or state, I think like we have given them more than enough information to feel at least a little bit more knowledgeable in that journey. Where can they find you? So obviously if somebody wants to either get a service done by you or just follow you on Instagram or follow you wherever you are on social media, where can they find you?
So the best place to find me is my Instagram, which is SC, so ESTHI _Sammy Sherlock. And from there, you can just see all my before and afters, and feel free to message me too on there. Even if it's just about moving and like, hey, I'm having a breakdown, like I did too. Keep pushing forward. That's natural, So feel free to reach out to me about booking or just about advice in that regard. And then I also have a booking link in my bio.
Perfect.
If you do want to book an appointment. But
And then what city are you in Massachusetts?
So I'm in Danvers, Massachusetts, city suburb. But
Yay! And of course, you guys, this will all be in the show notes. So if you can check out the show notes and just click on it, I will send you right to where she's talking about. Well, thanks again, Samantha. This was great.
Thank you. Oh, it's so fun.
Yay! I love it. I hope you liked that episode and found something useful or a tip that you can use immediately. If you are wanting more marketing tips, business tips, or anything like that, I have a lot of resources on my website. So I have PDFs that you can download for free. So look in your show notes. There should be a link in the show notes that you can click on, and it'll take you right to my coaching website. And thanks for listening.